for the council meeting on the 1st of July. Before I go to apologies, we are now able to have councillors join the meeting remotely. However, for their information, if they wish to take part in the full meeting, their camera must remain on for the duration of the meeting. And if they break, then they'll be excluded from whatever part of the meeting we're at, similar to the planning meeting. So if there's a topic comes up and your camera hasn't been on, you won't be allowed to speak on it. Check with Alison. I think that's correct. So we're just waiting for those councillors who are joining remotely to turn their cameras on. I think, Garvin, you're the only one with yours not on. That's Councillor McPhillips. Okay, well, so we'll monitor that. Also, I've two items that I'm going to raise here at the start before we go any further. First one is that our former colleague, Paul Blake's father, Pat Blake, passed away. Some of the older councillors, I'll not identify any of them, will remember whenever he owned licensed premises across the road, there would have been a fair bit of council business sorted out across there as well. So I'm proposing that I'm going to write a letter to Paul, his brother William, and sister Breege to pass on our condolences following his father's death, if that's acceptable. Thank you. The other thing is Praxis Mental Health, which is one of the largest mental health charities in the United Kingdom, and it's one that started in Northern Ireland. It's 40 years old on Wednesday. Two councils have already indicated that they're going to light their council buildings up purple, which is appropriate for the Praxis Mental Health. And provided nobody else has already booked that Wednesday night, I'm proposing that we light up our council buildings as well, if that's acceptable to everybody. Thank you very much. I have 5 items of any other business identified, and if appropriate, I will fit them in at various points in the meeting if a chance comes up to get them out of the way. So first item on the agenda is apologies, and we obviously have apologies from Councillor Deehan, Councillor Crawford, and Councillor Hawkes, who are representing the council. And I'm looking for the first slide is Councillor Warrington.
I'm happy to give away to Councillor, won't even say, or she's who's Sinn Féin representative.
Okay, Debbie, if you just hit your light there, if you've got apologies. Yeah.
Campbell, and I'm not sure if Roisin is online.
She is online, yes.
Yeah, and Catherine Kelly, please. And Anne-Marie Fitzgerald as well.
Okay, thank you. Next we go to Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking in when you were given the instruction on the new meeting formats. I just wanted to ask, is the full council meetings now? I thought everybody had to attend them in person, but is that obviously going to be included now in the hybrid meetings as well? And I'll give you the apologies. The apologies obviously have already given Councillor Crawford. Councillor Armstrong won't be here, and Councillor Rainey. And just as a party, we would like to be associated with condolences to the Blake family. Actually, quite a few of us met Paul when we were out tramping around the streets of Enniskillen on Saturday. We were talking to Paul, so we'd just like to be attributed to those. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Next we go to Councillor Paul Robinson.
Councillor Buchanan.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Councillor Hall.
So, yes, Chair, just in relation to Councillor Warrington's query, when the standing orders were reviewed, members put in provision that remote or virtual attendance could be facilitated at all meetings, including the council meeting. And the provisions that were put in were due to, for example, caring responsibilities or severe local weather. So that provision was built in, and it would be up to members themselves thereafter. I think that certainly the strong encouragement from the council was that the full council meeting should be prioritised by way of physical attendance.
Thank you. Debbie, I'm going to let you in quickly.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, just on behalf of the Sinn Féin Party, we'd like to send condolences to Paul and his family at this sad time.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Adam?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies, but just would like to thank you on Paul's behalf for the letter of condolences. And obviously, I'm sure he'd be very grateful for the condolences across the chamber. He always said that a lot of councillors from different backgrounds, whenever there was difficult times for the family or whenever his mother passed, he really appreciated those who came and showed his support, and he'd appreciate your support again with this recent passing. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Okay. So, confirm and sign the minutes.
Page by page.
Okay. Yeah, so,
This is the annual meeting.
so first one is the annual meeting, Monday the 3rd of June, 7 p.m. and page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, and page 9. Looking at a proposer in a seconder. Councillor Thomas O'Reilly.
Opposed the minutes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I saw Councillor Paul Robinson punching his hand in the air. I take it seconded. I sign now at this stage. I'll just do it. Okay. So then I go through this bracket.
The council meeting next.
Okay.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. So council meeting from the 4th of June. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, and page 19. Again, looking at a proposer, Councillor Warrington and Councillor McGrath. Okay. Now we go to declarations of interest. Item 4 on the agenda. Councillor Mark Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. There's a letter, it was one of the late received letters under item 16.5 from the Western Trust.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Again, I'm not seeing anybody else indicating or anybody else online, but if we do get any, we'll if you do come aware of something, you can always let us know. Okay. Okay, so next item on the agenda is item 5, matters arising from the annual general meeting of the council on the Monday the 3rd of June. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 3. Councillor O'Reilly.
It's just anticipating your 4 there, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Page 4.
Chair, just I propose that we write to the new Minister of Health, and I see we've got some late correspondence in
That's on the council.
the other folder.
Right, we're on the annual general meeting here.
Oh, you're still in the annual general, are you? My apologies, Chair.
Yeah, we'll get back to page page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Okay. Okay. Next, we go on matters arising from the council meeting on Tuesday, the 4th of June, and we're starting off page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Yeah.
So, sorry, Chair, just to say then, the last item of other correspondence, we've received a response this evening from the Minister of Health in relation to the Council's letter. This was on a number of issues, including the rural impact assessment on various funding decisions, including elective services by GPs, the commencement date for the Lisnaskea Health Centre, the status of the decision in relation to the South West Acute Hospital, as well as the request for a meeting with members. So the Minister has responded to some of those points, Chair. In terms of the request for the meeting, he has set out his proposed engagement specifically around South West Acute Hospital and has advised that there may be an opportunity for the Council to be engaged as part of that, but doesn't respond to the specific request for the meeting. Sets out the various elective services provided through primary care, notes his disappointment regarding the budget allocation and the impact that that will have with services and the ongoing engagement with the GP Federation. And then in terms of Lisnaskea noting commencement on site imminently subject to full business case approval. We had also referenced the OMA, the unit in terms of mental health provision in OMA, which is not responded to in the letter.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hayes, are you happy for me to let Councillor O'Reilly come in first, as he had indicated earlier? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry.
It is referenced towards the end, my apologies, but the detail we had requested is absent, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive.
Okay, mine was specifically around the Lisnaskea Health Centre, and immediately sounds good for the immediate commencement of that. But then the next two words is the key that I'm kind of unhappy with here, is subject to a full business case approval. So dealing with business case, Chair, yourself could take any amount of time to get full business case approval. So we're, in my opinion, no further on than we were. And I would propose, Chair, that we would indeed write back to the good minister to ask him, to be more specific on where exactly, at what stage is the business case, and how long does he anticipate that the remaining elements of the business case will take. Something to give us, because going out to the public and saying subject to the final approval of a business case doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. Councillor Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've literally got this response within the last half an hour. It would be nice if the Health Minister would have the constituents' health concerns of this area not be a last-minute thought, but he has responded, so I'll thank him for the response. In the specific issue of the women's health services, which was the 50% funding cut here affecting the Lisnaskea Health Centre, there has been some 300 million extra funding announced today by Kiva Archibald. I'm not 100% how much has been allocated to health. I think it's around 57% of that, but I may be wrong. I would urge the Minister for Health, and I'd like to write to the Minister for Health, Mike Nesbitt, to use some of that funding to reinstate those services, specifically the women's health services and the GP elective services, as that would bring down the waiting list and solve the inequality in this area. Mike Nesbitt was in Stormont today speaking on health inequalities, and he did say that it was very important to him in his role as the new health minister. So I don't think he could really stand over that if we didn't look at this issue in this area, having a rural area cut by 50% with no rural impact assessment. So if we could, I propose, please, Chair, write to him and use some of that extra funding to possibly reinstate those services, please. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Councillor O'Reilly, would you include that in yours? And are you happy to note the correspondence? And are you happy to second it, Councillor Hayes? Thank you. Councillor Green?
Thank you, Chair. I'm really confused in relation to the Lissenskey Health Centre reply, because 12 months ago, last December, the Department of Health said that it would take a year for the business case and all to be worked through, and that they would be hoping to have shovels in the ground in around December 2023. So when December 2023 came, I wrote to Robin Swan, I wrote to the Department of Health, and I was told that the time scale had slipped a bit. I have it in an email, I just have it here. But the time scale had slipped a bit, but that shovels would definitely be in the ground in the summer of 2024. So is the Department of Health now saying that the business case isn't even complete? Is that what the reading of that letter is? That I was misled in December 2023?
We can include that if Councillor O'Reilly's happy and Councillor Hayes in the letter. I'm going to let Councillor Robinson, you have declared an interest on this item, on the Western Trust, sorry. Thank you.
Yes, Chair, it's just on that point. I hadn't realised this letter was going to be added onto the agenda, so it's just a declared interest on this and any subsequent letter that may issue. So,
okay, thank you, Mark. I'm silent myself. Yeah, Councillor McColgan.
Just because we're on the issue, I thought maybe we could.
I was going to close this one and come back to you, if that's okay. If we're all happy, are we all happy that we go ahead and write back? I'm not seeing anybody disagreeing. So that's okay. I'm going to let Councillor McColgan was one of the ones who had indicated any other business, and I feel it's appropriate at this stage as it is a health matter. So, Councillor McColgan.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just an issue had been raised with me regarding the
Just pull your mic around a wee bit more.
regarding the treatment room at Oma Hospital. Over the past few weeks, I had occasion to visit the treatment room myself, and I found it to be a fantastic facility which provides an invaluable service to the community. Staff there, really professional, dedicated and very helpful. And the first issue was that a few weeks ago, there was a reduction in staffing at the treatment room, which led to the staff being overstretched and in turn increased waiting times for the patients. However, I believe there's been some work to try and measures taken to remedy this issue. The other issue is the treatment room has always operated on an appointment system, which has worked well, meaning the patients are able to get allocated a slot which suits them, and usually means there's no overly extended waiting times. So people who have attended the treatment room on a regular basis, and sometimes daily, are able to make an appointment to suit in with their work, etc., with the minimum of impact on their day-to-day lives. And having talked to patients and staff, there's a current worry that there are plans to do away with the appointment system and into the future have the treatment room as a walk-in facility. Now, the concerns expressed to me are that this has the potential to become chaotic with no control over the numbers of walk-ins at any given time, the possibility of leaving staff overstretched and patients with no idea of how long they would be waiting. To say would have big impact on people who are attending on a regular basis. So, Chair, I'm requesting that the Council write to the Trust highlighting these concerns, asking for assurances on adequate staffing into the future and seeking clarity regarding the future operating procedures at Oma Treatment Room.
Okay, thank you. Can I have somebody to second that? Councillor Stephen Donnelly. And I'm not taking any discussion on it. It is a matter of any other business. Are we all happy to go ahead and write a letter? I'm not seeing anybody opposed. Okay, thank you. One item out of the way. page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7. Chief Executive again.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to page 7, a couple of items. Firstly, Chair, as you indicated at the outset of the meeting, we have, at the end of last week, received confirmation from the Department for Communities that the remote meeting regulations have now been enabled, and all meetings may take place on a virtual or hybrid basis, subject to councils having the appropriate standing orders in place, which we do. So the relevant correspondence, Chair, is attached as just in the other folder. It's other letter 1. So just if we could maybe formally have a proposer and seconder for noting, please.
Councillor Green.
Yeah, I would like to propose that. Just if you'll indulge me just for a second to follow on from Victor's point at the beginning. I believe our policy was to have full council meetings all in person, bar somebody that was sick or had some care and responsibility or something, but it was going to be a very limited proposal. So I hope that is the case, and that we are going to try and follow through on that, and that it doesn't end up down the slippery slope where half the councillors aren't turning up even to the full council meeting.
Okay, thank you, Seamus. And you're happy to, you need that noted? Yes, are you happy for to note that correspondence, Seamus? Thank you. Looking to seconder, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
So, Chair, just also on that page, item 6.7, to draw members' attention to, again, in your other correspondence folder, this is correspondence from the Water Appeals Commission, and it's in relation to the Dalradian public inquiry. Members will be aware that the inquiry has been paused due to a procedural error in DAERA's processing of 2 separate licences. Really, this correspondence is setting out a further procedural error, which is likely to result in a further delay to the process. And again, no update has yet been provided regarding the timescale. So again, just for noting, please, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
I'm happy to note, Chair, just want to voice concerns again, but also wish that, everybody needs to have their ducks in order for this public inquiry. It's very, very important for the residents of Midrow.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Stephen Donnelly. So, page 8. Page 9. Yeah.
This is just
Okay.
the letters, so it's whichever you want.
Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. This is actually on page 8. There's 2 issues, but they're both under the same item, so I'll both raise them now. The first one is the waste and recycling working group. It would be useful, I think, Chair, just very conscious that this is the last meeting before, as far as I know, before the September meeting, so it would be useful just to get an update. John, if it would be useful just to get an update in terms of where we are with that, because I note, whilst I do what.
No, there will be a meeting before.
It's confidential.
So it's confidential, so we can't bring it up at this part of the meeting. The waste and recycling work and stuff.
Okay, I'll not refer to the working group. I'll not refer to the working group. I'll just refer to what's out there already, just in terms of the missed routes today.
Sorry, we can't hear you as well. Yeah. Sorry, I'm told that this information can be discussed at another meeting. There's information laid down for that will be at another meeting, which will be more appropriate to this topic.
So can I not raise the issue? I mean, even of today's missed routes, because as far as I know, there were 4 routes missed today, with a significant number of roads and households involved in that.
Yeah. No, I think it's more appropriate. This is being discussed at Environmental Services tomorrow, and I think that there'll be more information available there, and that's the appropriate meeting to discuss this at.
Okay. Well,
your concerns are raised. have been raised, but this is ongoing and it's not, but we'll raise it at that meeting.
Appreciate this ongoing, Chair, and that's why I raised it tonight. I mean, I only raised it on the basis that things aren't getting much
Yeah.
better.
Okay,
But Chair,
so I know I've
move-
ruled
move
on
on
now,
from that
Mark,
point.
so thank you.
It's a second.
Sorry, Mark, I have ruled, so. Sorry,
This is
now, I
sec-
have a
second.
point of order, so you have to stop there.
Propose we move on, Chair.
Okay, we've had a proposal to move on, all agreed? Okay. Sorry. We're not going to further discuss the waste and recycling. It will be discussed tomorrow night, okay? So, page 9. I've moved on from page 8 and page 9 are both connected. So, page 10. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies if I've missed this here. Have we dealt with item 6.3, the letter from the Competitions and Marketing Authority? It was on page 5 of the council agenda, but I don't think it was mentioned.
Where's that? Where's that?
Yeah, no, Councillor McCann wished to bring it up.
Sorry, Councillor McCann, yes, we'll go back to that. That's 6.4. That was on page 5.
Aye, we haven't dealt with this particular item yet.
No.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Well, if I can just speak very briefly on it there. And propose a note, first of all, this letter from the Competitions and Marketing Authority, or Markets Authority. And I suppose just make a comment, Chair, that we've all been out and about on the doors this last couple of weeks, and in my own area, the cost of insurance has come up time and time again, especially with young families and young working class families in particular. Not just car insurance, but indeed house insurance as well. And Councillor Kelly had just advised me of some premiums that she was given by one of her constituents recently from 2001 until 2024, from £404 up to £1,150 for house insurance. You know, really, really extortionate prices. In terms of car insurance, I think that, you know, this is a huge issue that we can't just let slip away. My own daughter is turning 18 very shortly, and her initial premiums are coming in at £4,000. You know, bearing in mind the minimum wage for young people is £6.40. It would take her, if she was to work to pay for her car insurance, would take her 32 weeks with just that bill, you know. So it's not sustainable. Chair, can I propose that we do write back to the Competitions and Marketing Authority or Markets Authority, and I think Louise Close is the NI representative for that organisation, and invite her to come in maybe to the chamber for an informal meeting, whether it be remotely, I know that we're back operating remotely, or in person, but just to talk about some of the work that they're doing. In terms of the correspondence, she says that we help people, businesses, and the economy by promoting competitive markets and tackling unfair behaviour. I would argue very strongly that the premiums that we're seeing for car insurance at the moment is unfair to working families, and it's putting people off the road, basically. So it says, she goes on to say there, we've consistently taken action to support consumers and help contain cost of living pressures in areas of essential spend. You know, so she references her recent work in promoting stronger competition in road fuels and her work in the grocery sector, including an ongoing market study in relation to infant formula, which is all very welcome stuff. But I think we need to hear what are they doing in terms of holding insurance companies to account in terms of the extortionate prices that they're charging. So I propose that we write to the CMA and inviting them in for an informal chat. I also propose, Chairman, that we would contact the Chair of the Finance Committee, Matthew O'Toole, and maybe seek if they can commence a committee inquiry around the whole issue of extortionate insurance premiums to see if they can maybe progress this any further. There has been a Sinn Féin motion passed recently in the Assembly about insurance costs, which is welcome as well. But this, you know, this can't be let go. You know, there's too many people struggling out there at the moment. It's up there with all the other pressures, heating and electric and all the rest. You know, so okay, I make them two proposals, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take Councillor Mahan here.
Thank you, Chair. Just page 10. We got that for you?
No, I'm dealing with this here.
No problem.
Have we a seconder for Councillor Potter and Kelly? Okay. we have a technical issue going on here with our electronics, and we're going to have to do a reset. So I'm asking somebody to propose for a couple of minutes, Councillor John Philly and Councillor Robert Irvine, and propose 5 minutes, David? 5 minutes. Okay, so if you just get a cup of tea and Yes, we're ready to go. So we were Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just want to come in and second Councillor McCann's proposal. That, I think, seen the letter from the Competition Markets Authority, and I thought it was quite weak, not really taking responsibility for such a big issue and trying to palm it off to other bodies, which is disappointing. Insurance is obviously still a massive issue, and we're seeing people affected by it. And the example of £4,000 for an 18-year-old, like, that's absolutely insane. Like, there's no way that could stand up. Who's going to afford that? So in the past there was quite a big issue of insurance in the south, and I remember people like Pierce Doherty in the south leading on that issue, and they actually got somewhere with that issue, and they've managed to lower premiums to the extent that they're not as high as they are up here now. So the idea of a finance committee inquiry is quite a good idea, I think, and hopefully if they take that on board, we could maybe examine that issue, put the spotlight on the insurance companies to their claims that it's nothing that they can do about that. There's it's a fair price that they're providing, doesn't stack up. So we want to see that claim examined through and through. So that's it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Yeah, well, contrary to all the other speakers, I'm really impressed with this letter. I have underlined a few of the statements in it. For instance, they say that we remain alive to the issue. And further on, they say they will continue to monitor the situation. So you can't get much stronger than that. Where I think it's sorted if they remain alive to the issue and continue to monitor the situation. But I was going to suggest the same as Councillor McCann and ask them down to query them on that, because I know there would be some skeptics there that think that them remaining alive to the issue and continue to monitor the situation maybe doesn't cut the mustard, but I'm really interested to see what that really means in real life, and I'd say it's pretty scary.
Okay, so it's proposed and seconded that we issue further correspondence. All in agreement? Thank you. Okay, so we're back to page 10, and Councillor Mohammed indicated for page 10.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to 6.9, I wondered, have we heard anything back from the Minister in relation to the school signage yet?
Chair, we have written, but no response as yet.
Okay. So, page 10, page 11. Page 12.
Chair, just on page 12, in relation to the representations that have been received regarding potential difficulties on Irish passport documentation and holding in customs, we've received a response from both An Post and Royal Mail. Both are attached just as matters arising. The Royal Mail letter is the second letter in your other correspondence folder, and both are saying that there are no customs borders, or there's no provision in which passport applications would be held in customs.
Okay. Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I propose to note the correspondence, obviously, the two correspondences in question. And I went back to my sub-postmaster, who is reporting practical difficulties in this area consistently. And I'll just read out what my local contact said. Those letters seem clear to me. While we know that, and An Post seemingly know that, the unfortunate truth is that some within the customs system do not, and they have on a regular basis refused to forward passport applications from this office directly, despite each one sent from us having an appendage put onto the envelope, and it's in inverted commas, posted from Northern Ireland, no customs required. That's what the local postmaster has written onto the envelope. And in large orange Sharpie, I presume that's an envelope. I did email Customs Department directly myself a few months back, and their reply insisted that items from the north did require electronic customs declarations, which the system here does not allow us to complete. I personally have had to endure serious complaints from customers because of the failings within customs, compounded by the fact that items refused are sent en masse to England and not directly to Belfast, meaning that it could be a number of months before applicants eventually get their documentation returned. So there's a practical example of what I'm talking about. I accept some aspects of the very short letters there. But for now, I'm just going to park the issue, and I'm going to take the matter up with An Post and Royal Mail and report back to myself. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAuliffe. Councillor McCann.
Chair, I'm just happy to second the noting of the correspondences.
Thank you. Page 13.
Chair, just to confirm in relation to the Somme Association, just that the final delegation was as reported, so that's Councillors Crawford, Hawkes and Deehan who have attended, and they're engaging and participating with Antrim and Newton Abbey members, so just to maybe record our thanks to Antrim and Newton Abbey for facilitating some of the travel arrangements, Chair.
Page 14. Page 15. Page 16.
Just on page 16, we have correspondence from the Western Health and Social Care Trust. This is in relation to the motion that was adopted unanimously at last month's meeting and regarding a DHDD and the associated treatment services. And really, Mr. Guckian is just setting out that this is not a commissioned service and setting out the wider difficulties that are being encountered.
As for noting, Councillor McGrath. And somebody else, Councillor Robinson. Page 17.
Yes, just page, page 18, apologies.
Page 18.
Yeah, just on page 18, Chair, we have a response from the Agriculture Minister. This is regarding the Future Rural Development Programme and the associated funding. So maybe a couple of things, Chair, that members will probably have picked up in the letter. Firstly, the Minister references the establishment of a new rural policy unit on the 1st of April, which may be worth seeking some further clarity on. But I suppose just in relation to the last paragraph, Chair, and this might be something the Council perhaps would wish to make some further representations on. One of the core difficulties is just the Department for Communities has statutory responsibility for rural regeneration. DFC's responsibility is only, according to their own guidance, for settlements of 5,000 and above, which mean that the majority of settlements in our district, except Omagh and Enniskillen, fall below the funding threshold. So at the moment, there is a significant policy gap, and there is no mechanism by how that can be fulfilled. So it may be a chance that has affected our funding formula in the past, and is one of the reasons why the Council always receives such a small allocation from DFC.
Okay, thank you. Before I let you in, Seamus, are you going to note that correspondence? And Anthony, are you going to second? Okay, thank you. Seamus, I think this is an appropriate point to, sorry. I'm going to bring Councillor Green in for any other business on a matter around agriculture.
Thanks. Firstly, in relation to this letter, could we, and there's been a number of initiatives there that has been give us examples of where funding has been has been introduced to replace the Rural Development Programme. Could we, or do we know, can we compare them, as in how much money is coming now compared to under the Rural Development Programme? Is that possible to do, or does anyone know if we compare these? And if these ones, as given an example, were they there before the Rural Development Programmes, or were they there hand in hand with them? And you know, I remember the time of Brexit. It's like the bus with the 350 million a year going into the a week extra going into the health service. You know, it was complete nonsense. It basically lies. On this here, where are we on this here? Just how better off or worse off, as I suspect we are now post-Brexit than we were prior to Brexit. So would that be possible to gauge on that?
I'm going to bring the Chief Executive in then.
Chair, I think if Councillor Green was maybe minded to do so, I can certainly provide a commentary on some of them, but I think we should write back and actually ask them for the breakdown for our area as to what the level of funding will be provided. I know, for example, that DARE are not working with us on the City and Growth deals. To the best of my knowledge, they've not had any direct involvement in Peace Plus for the complementary fund. So I think it would be worth doing that. And from that, we would certainly know how much funding we received in the Rural Development Programme and match directly against it.
Yeah, so we'd be comparing like with like. Yeah, I would propose that then. And
do you want me to go back for your AOB?
Yeah,
James?
please.
Okay, and I'll go to Councillor Green, or Councillor Fiddy.
No, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll second that. Second the Chairman's proposal.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, you know, I'm just wondering, is the Minister over his brief or is he not? When he comes back with who is now providing the funding for rural areas, and as the Chief Executive has said, anything below 5,000 is definitely DAERA's, or has at least been theirs. So I would, if the Seamus would agree, that we would include that in the letter to point out that there is a glaring gap, which is his responsibility to provide funding for, that is not being looked after. And then as far as the new committee that is set up, could we get a breakdown of who is on that committee, and do we have somebody representing the Fermanagh area, which is the biggest rural area of the 11 councils? So just to try and get some understanding of what this committee and the remit of the committee, Chair, and where that committee and how many times it's going to be sitting, some understanding of what it's going to be all about. So if Seamus would be happy with those two things as additions.
So Seamus is indicating yes, and as is Anthony. So thank you. Nobody else is indicating. So are we all in agreement with Seamus's proposal? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to Seamus because he has another matter on funding and DAERA, and the two words fit into that one.
I propose that we write to the Minister of Agriculture requesting or asking what measures he's putting in due to the severe weather and the problems that's creating for farmers, particularly hill farmers, that is trying to farm ground that is completely saturated at the minute. Previously, when something like this happened back in the 1980s, or there's more recent examples, the department would come in with a severe weather payment to try and help or assist farmers in this. But there seems to be nothing but a wall of silence from the minister. I wrote to him previously in relation to this after the wet spring, and to see had he any proposals. And I got a kind of a fluffy letter back that his officers and staff were giving farmers advice. Now, advice is all well and good, but really it doesn't cut the mustard when we go to when farmers can't get into their fields to get the crops off the fields due to the severe weather. So I'm proposing that we write and ask and point out that we have asked previously, and we got there was nothing on the there was nothing coming from the department that time, but the weather has got no better. It's still, in fact, it has got worse, and crops can't be got off the field. So what is he proposing? Is there a proposal for a severe weather payment? And if not, just what has he been doing in this wet spring and now this wet summer?
Thank you, Seamus. And Anthony, you're coming in the second?
Yeah.
Thank you. So you've heard Seamus's proposal and seconded by Anthony. Everybody in agreement? Okay, any contrary? No. Thank you. So page 18. Page 19.
So, Chair, just there were a couple of letters just earlier in the minutes, just as matter arising, just to note from the Minister for Infrastructure. This is in relation to the unadopted estates and specifically the Council's representations regarding Northern Ireland Water's decision to withhold information about the identity of those estates. So you have the Minister's letter, Northern Ireland Water's letter from the Chief Executive, and then also the correspondence from the Information Management Unit, which is setting out the rationale as to why this information has been considered against the Environmental Information Regulations. Members will probably have noted, Chair, but just on page 3 of that latter response, there is details that indicates that the owners of the properties may be able to acquire the information directly from Northern Ireland Water, so it may be shared lawfully with the resident as opposed to with a public body, and that might be something that the council would wish to pursue, so or to encourage those residents to pursue. So really just each for noting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I propose a note, but just on the letter from NIE and from the Minister, or sorry, NIW and the Minister, it's quoted here as Regulation 12.5.3, E, and the sad person I am, I actually looked that up, and nowhere in that regulation could I see anywhere that would be relevant to withholding this information. And so I would propose that we would get a legal opinion from our solicitor around this, of what he thinks on that regulation and what should be and what could be withheld, and perhaps even write to the Information Commissioner in relation to this, because when the Department of Infrastructure was down, the road service was here, they give us more or less the same information, and now they are saying that this would have economic and financial, but the fact that road service was given the information, NIW isn't given the information. Surely it's basically the same information of what is and isn't finished. So how can one section of the Department of the Department of Infrastructure give this information and another part of it say that it has to be withheld? It doesn't make sense. And so I'd like Philip to give us an opinion on that, and I'd also like ask that we consider writing to the Information Commissioner in relation to this, just to clarify it.
Thank you, Seamus. Next we'll go to Councillor Robert Irvine in the chamber.
Well, there's two things, possibly, if I could piggyback on what Seamus has just said. Rather than jumping to getting a legal opinion basically on the regulation ourselves, could we seek clarification from Northern Ireland Water with regard to their legal interpretation of the regulation, and let them at least do a bit of the preparatory work before we have to spend a bit of money, because that is seeking further clarification. I think it's only right that if they're seeking legal cover from a statutory instrument, that they should actually provide or expand why they're actually getting that. But it's up to Seamus whether he wants to go with that. The second thing that I have got is this problem of unadopted streets, estates, is not going to go away. It's actually starting to become a far bigger issue. And the issue is that the longer those estates remain in the status of unadoption, either in regard to the road infrastructure or the sewerage infrastructure, that infrastructure will deteriorate. And if you read into particularly what Northern Ireland Water is saying, is it is either the developer's responsibility to maintain in a reasonable position until adoption, or in the absence of a developer, it's up to the owners or the house owners within a development to keep it up to a reasonable standard before adoption. That is actually going to get worse. And literally the only place or arena that there's any solution that is going to be found is Stormont Chamber. I would suggest that this council actually continue to lobby, and I would lobby the Executive Office in regard to options coming out of Stormont in regard to trying to solve the problem. We have highlighted, along with other councils, the issue. The relevant ministers have written back, which is quite right, saying what they can and can't do with regard to their statutory responsibility. But that still leaves a hiatus, a void within the middle. And until we sort out the void for all the people within that void, it's not going to go away. So it's wrong that Stormont actually say, well, we can't do anything because of this. That's fair enough, gentlemen, ladies, elected representatives. But we're presenting you with a problem. But we want our options streaming out of that chamber to actually sort the problem, no matter what it is. And we will then see whatever the support is. So I would suggest we write to the Executive Office, because the individual ministries will just use the shield of statutory cover and just say what they will say. The Executive Office is basically the office for implementing new legislation or change legislation, and I think we have to do that. And maybe we need to wrap the other councils that are in the same predicament in as well, and see if we can get support to piggyback. So that's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, Seamus, do you think about what Robert said, or are you happy enough to come in now?
Yeah, I agree with the vast majority of what he said. As for asking Water to interpret their legal, I might be wrong on this, but I would suggest that Water will not divulge what their legal advice is, just as we wouldn't tell anyone else our legal advice. So I don't think that'll be a runner. I think we'll stick with get Philip to give his opinion.
Okay, I'm going to let the Chief Executive come in here.
Sorry, Chair, I think it's just maybe in those latter points. I think if I'm interpreting Councillor Green's proposal in the first instance, we will seek the review of the decision by the Information Commissioner, and we can highlight the inconsistencies and ask them maybe to consider or investigate the legal application. And thereafter, if there are still ambiguities, we can certainly get the additional legal opinion, and certainly Philip and his colleagues can be looking at that in parallel. But I know there are 6 months, but as there's a time-bound aspect to the decision, it might be good just to get that progressed in the first instance.
Okay. And
sorry, just the other point, just the partnership panel chair, Councillor Irvine, had made a similar proposal previously, so we had this actually included for the partnership panel, but due to the election, the meeting was rescheduled and will now be later in the year. So I understand it will be revisited, but we can certainly pursue it once more in that forum.
Okay, and you're happy to go with that, Robert? Okay, thank you. Thomas O'Reilly.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I don't know if Roberts needs second or whatever there, but I agree. And certainly I think it's got worse because we, some years ago had information from the road service saying that a special unit to look at the unadopted estates had been set up and that they were working diligently through that. I'm not at all sure that they've worked very far through the amount of estates that was in the list, and I'd be surprised if that list isn't growing all the time. But also a recent experience of Northern Ireland Water, where they are saying to the residents of the estate that before adoption, they want the sewerage pumps, there happened to be a pumping station on this estate, brought back to a new status. So they wanted brand new pumps put in and all the rest of it. So it's not just about keeping it up to date and in working order. They're looking for bells and whistles onto these estates before they'll adopt them. So unless somebody from a higher up pecking order puts some pressure on to that department and specifically then onto NI Water, we are going to see residents not having their estates adopted for some time to come, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Councillor Roof is on line, so if you want to come in now, Eddie, please.
Thanks, Chair. Firstly, just wanted to echo everyone's condolences for Paul Blake earlier in the night. Pat Blake was a very well thought of member of the community in Enniskillen, and I dare say that no one would have a bad word said about him, so he'd be a huge loss to the town. I echo Seamus's notes earlier regarding the online nature of the full council meetings. That should be the exception rather than the rules. The first time I've missed a full council meeting, and it was going to be due to childcare issues, so I'm appreciative that I got the opportunity to take part. Regarding this, I'm happy to really agree with what Councillor Green has said. A lot of what Councillor Irvine said too. There's a lot of homes in all parts, and particularly in Enniskillen, we've had a couple of different houses where they have actually sales have fallen through because of the fact that the house was unadopted, and therefore mortgages were not possible. So we're at a point now where some of these houses have been up for 30 years, and there will be starting to be wear and tear in the infrastructure. So if we can get that information from NI Water, that will really help us as a council. Yes, I appreciate Councillor Irvine had suggested that it would have to go back to Stormont, and that's where the decisions will take place. But for local pressure for residents, I think we are better placed to try and put pressure on, because we can see how many estates in our council are affected by this. If you multiply that by 11, it's going to be a huge workload for Stormont. So yeah, if we can push that back to NI Water, and yes, through the Information Commission as well, as Councillor Green has suggested, hopefully we will get a little bit more detail that we can try and start speaking to residents and trying to come up with some local solutions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. So you've heard the Seamus proposal, seconded by Councillor Irvine. Everybody in agreement? No contraries. Thank you. So next we go on to item 7 on the agenda, to confirm the minutes of the planning meeting on the 22nd of May, the Town Hall, and through that for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20. See, I also chaired that, but I'll go to Councillor Irvine. Proposed. And I'm looking to second her. Councillor Robinson. Thank you. So now we go through matters arising. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20. Thank you. Next we go on to item number 9, environmental services on the Wednesday the 5th of June. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. And Councillor Maguire.
I propose the minutes, Chair.
Okay. Councillor McGrath seconds. Oh, sorry, you weren't there. Councillor Robinson. Thank you. I'll go through matters arising. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 7. Councillor Green, please, page 6.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. 8.2, 8.3, verge management policy. I just, road service was in a couple of weeks ago, and when we were talking about this problem of the grass verges growing and blocking sight lines, they were saying that the contractors had been acquired and that they were starting to cut these grass verges now. A couple of weeks more has went past, and the vast majority of rural roads hasn't been cut. I suggested at the time, and I don't know what other councillors think, but I would propose that we write to them and we ask them to commence with this grass cutting 3 to 4 weeks sooner than they do. That they leave it to the height of the grass growing season when these extremely large white weeds, I'm sure everyone has seen them on the rural roads, grows up. And they are a type of weed that if they were cut, they won't grow back again, and it's them that causes most of the trouble with the sight lines. I'm not sure what you call the weed, but I'm sure somebody would be an expert on them. But I think the grass cutting needs to be cut. The grass needs to be started to cut 3 to 4 weeks earlier, and it would solve an awful lot of the problems. So I would propose that. I don't know what the rest of the councillors think, but I would propose we write to road service and we request that they would do that.
Thank you, Seamus. I'm afraid I'll have to declare an interest. My son-in-law is one of the contractors, and I believe the white weed is called cow parsley. Well, I'm going to ask Liam to chair this bit.
Councillor Feely?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be happy to second that proposal. Sure, you. The chair's son-in-law does a great job cutting the cow parsley. I just, as well as seconding it, I just want to be mindful that, as we are writing letters, that there are some council-maintained areas of grass that still haven't been cut as well. So just It's just wanted to point that out because residents are bringing it up as well.
Councillor McElduff? Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I propose that we include in our letter to DFA Roads, Kevlin Glen, OMA, which is under the control, the area I'm talking about, of DFA Roads. And again, there's a health and safety and environmental dimension here. It's very, very slopey territory, steep gradient. Children, young people play there, and anybody who visits that area, it's definitely an environmental issue, and it's definitely a health and safety issue. And in the pecking order of priority and urgency, DFA Roads keep telling us that they will intervene urgently if it's health and safety related. So I would want to emphasise that in the correspondence as well. Thank you, Chair.
We've got a proposer and seconder. All agreed.
Thank you, Elaine. Page 7, page 8.
Just on page 8, if I could draw members' attention, we have attached the correspondence that was referenced at the committee meeting, and this is from the Windsor Framework Democratic Scrutiny Committee, notification of Replacement EU Act. But in the correspondence, you'll have seen that the committee agreed to provide a published inquiry report, so the link is included within the letter, and also information regarding the functions of the committee. And members, they're clearly progressing a programme of work, have been encouraged just to keep regularly monitoring the work of the committee by use of its website. So again, really just for information, Chair, and as discussed at the meeting.
Again, proposer and seconder to note. Councillor Robinson, Councillor McGrath. You nearly got in there, Declan. Page 8, page 9. Yeah, okay. Next, we're on to item 11, which is Regeneration and Community Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 11th of June. And for accuracy, page 1. Page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 10, do you want?
Yeah.
So, going to let Councillor Brock in first.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I understand why Council is the last RNC meeting voted against the business case for the installation of suitable lighting around the cottage law in Balcoo due to the scheme not being cost effective and because of health and safety issues. The cottage law in Balcoo is an important area used by the community and visitors alike. With the importance of health and well-being on our community plan, it's important that we keep our community spaces safe and accessible and finding a balance between the environment and nature. Therefore, I propose having the lights for the cottage lawn, Balcoo, re-looked at. Seek the council approval to consider an alternative business case which complies with all relevant areas, example, costings, location, bats, health and safety, etc. And request the council look at lighting bollard systems which complies with health and safety to locals and visitors and which is bat and eco-friendly and cost-effective.
Chief Executive in here.
Chair, just in terms, I suppose, procedurally, so the recommendation obviously is within the minute. So members would have the opportunity to refer the report back to the committee, which would be the appropriate juncture for the proposal to be raised or for the matter to be adopted as presented. But certainly if there is a different view from the recommendation, which is that it would be noted, the appropriate way I would suggest is that the minute is adopted without that recommendation, and we would then refer it back to the committee when the detail of the recommendation as presented this evening could be formalised.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anthony Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Alison, for that. I'd like to go back to committee as well, so I'll second Elaine's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. And Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and just to publicly state that in fairness to Councillor Rowe and Feely, that they're not on that committee, and they appreciate them speaking on it tonight, and fair play to them for speaking up on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm on page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16.
Just formally then, before you take the adoption, it would be recommending the adoption of the minutes bar that recommendation regarding the Cottage Lawn business case, and the matter would then be referred back to Regeneration and Community Committee.
Okay. So Councillor Donnelly, you're the chair, Stephen. So you're proposing with the okay, thank you. Looking at seconder, Councillor McCann.
You happy to second? And just one quick query, Chair, in relation to, just say if any member wished to attend that R&C committee and speak on that matter, can they request speaking rights now, or how's that progressing, Alison?
I'm going to let the Chief Executive come in on this.
Sorry, Chair, just to say, in the Policy and Resources minutes, if adopted, we have the provision for members who are not on the committee to seek speaking rights. I suppose what I would note, the agendas have obviously issued, so it would be for the September committee. But yes, there would be no difficulty for any member. I think it's by 12 noon on the day before the meeting, just to send the request.
Okay, thank you. And now we're at that policy. Is that? Oh, sorry, Stephen.
Right, Chair, and just maybe if we can just ask that be circulated, maybe just in writing, Alison, for us, we just have it, just so we can, if ever want to check the procedure for it, you can just refer to it. Thank you.
Okay, we're coming to now. Okay.
R&C.
Right. Shall I have left that to
That's right.
yeah. Okay. So now we're going matters arising from the Regeneration and Community Committee. So page 1, 2, 3, page 4, 5, page 4, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to the capital grant, there is a capital grant, small capital grants every year of up to 20,000. I'd like to make a proposal in relation to that. Before that would be the capital grants, because I think it was proposed for 3 years. So before that it go through or go back to committee, I want to propose that £1 million yearly strategic capital grant programme rolling for 5 years and then to be reviewed would be set up by the council. I would suggest that there would be up to 10 £100,000 grants and that at least one grant per DEA per year, which would leave then 3 DEAs with the better applications with 2. This would be targeted at sport and community-based groups who have the capacity to deliver, have land under their control, or can contribute with finance or other in-kind support themselves. This scheme would be a stimulus for communities which are helping themselves. I would request a report be brought back to a relevant committee, possibly R&C, and that this proposal is worked through the estimates process later this year so that it can be ready for the 25-26 year. And one of the reasons why I'm making this proposal is that I believe community groups and sports groups out there play a vital role in providing facilities to local communities where maybe government bodies and councils can't, local authorities can't. And I think it'd be a stimulus to the local economy If a group gets 100,000, they probably spend 200,000-300,000 more on a thing, on their proposal. So I believe it would be a great stimulus. I think possibly if this is accepted and goes through, we might be one of the only councils, if not the only, to have a capital grants programme of this scale. So I am proposing that.
Okay. Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd like to second Councillor Green's proposal. And the way it's thought out highlights the enabling and empowering role of the council with regard to local communities and community development. So it is, as Councillor Green has said, helping communities to help themselves. And for quite some years now, I think there's a major gap to be filled regionally in that DFC, DAERA in rural communities, Sport NI haven't been coming forward. So I think we can fill the void in a way which puts the onus on the relevant communities to come up with significant finance or land assets or whatever under their own control. And I just think it's a strong, positive proposal and would be us leading as a council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor G. You've all heard the proposal by Councillor Green for the officers to bring forward a business case, seconded by Councillor McElduff. So are we all in agreement at this stage? Councillor Irvine.
Just for clarification, that business case we brought forward consideration at the estimates, obviously that'll have to be taken in conjunction with our future capital plan that we've already agreed. And there's a possibility, I think we need to bear in mind as a chamber, that could actually put off some projects that we have if we haven't got the available capital, or if there's going to be additional borrowing. I think that would have to be included in the options paper. I'm sorry, I presume this is an options paper, it's not a business case?
Chair, as I understand it, the ask is twofold. Firstly, it's to prepare a report to the relevant committee setting out what the scope of such a grants programme could be. And in parallel with that, an options paper essentially would be considered as part of the estimates process, which, as it would be capital funding in nature, as Councillor Irvine has indicated, would then be part of the normal capital plan considerations. And the provisions are within the 5-year capital plan review after 5 years. So you'd almost have the potential around policy, but then the financing of that would be part of the estimates. And then that would be considered, as I understand from the proposal, for implementation for the 25-26 financial year. So there wouldn't be any provision this year for such
Premature to say that there is a business case that needs to be prepared for it because we haven't actually agreed anything yet. Isn't that correct?
No, it'd be setting out, the report would set out the policy, then the options would be considered as part of the estimates, which would be our normal approach here.
It's okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I have Councillor Roof online.
Thanks, Chair. Just a point of clarity for the motion. Are we saying that it's for clubs, associations that just own the premises, or that perhaps have a long-term lease for the premises as well?
Okay, Chair, I think they'd be things that we would set out, but our normal arrangement would be that if any, even on our current capital grant programme, would be that a group would either have to have ownership or a long-term lease arrangement in place. So I think the report to the relevant committee would just set out around the potential policy considerations, and we would, I suppose, set out what our normal approach within grants would be. And I think certainly if the council was minded to support of grants of that scale, you would be looking at leverage and the scale of investment that the community would be bringing in as well. But those would be matters really of detail once the principles would be established. So I suppose it would really be the initial policy paper, the consideration of the estimates, and then if the council was minded to proceed, you would have the normal detailed guidance that would accompany an application for.
That's great. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we're all in agreement. Go ahead, yeah. Nobody conflict. Okay, thank you very much. Page 5, page 6, page 7, Page 8. Page 9. Mr. McAuliffe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just taking you back to page 6. And also it would have relevance then till, events matters, I think, which are elsewhere in this report. I'm just wondering if the council could explore holding and promoting events in Gorton Glens Forest Park. One of the reasons why I think it contains enormous potential. I know that local people have taken initiatives and that's good, but I know that they're also hoping for support from the council, as a corporate body. And one thing that made me think about this over the weekend was the success of Pomeroy Forest recently, relaunching and local events being held there. And I would encourage anybody to visit Pomeroy Forest Park. It's in the Mid-Ulster Council area, just a few miles from Mid-Tyrone people. And visited myself the other day. They have their own version of the Giants in Pomeroy Forest. So, I'd like to congratulate, obviously, Mid-Ulster Council on that initiative and maybe propose that we write till Mid-Ulster Council to congratulate them on that development and other developments, fringing on our council area. But I think the idea of holding and promoting events which bring people to the Gorton Glens Forest Park should be advanced, and await a report on that in due course. Thank you, Chair. That's my proposal.
Okay. Councillor Stephen McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, an excellent proposal, and I'm happy to second it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm quite happy to send the letter to Mid-Ulster. I have called into Pomeroy first and pass it on my way to visit relatives, and it is an excellent facility. So, everyone in agreement? Okay, thank you. I've got some page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16. Okay. Now we go on to item 13. Policy and Resources, Wednesday the 12th of June. So, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. And Councillor Victor Warrington proposed. Somebody that was there. Second. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Okay, so Matters Arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Okay, Matters Arising. Brilliant. Correspondence.
It's just the council powers, so it's just one item, 2 items.
Okay, so the two, Usher,
Just take
15.
item 15, yeah.
Yeah. So item 15 is to consider delegation of council powers to the following committees. I'm going to pass over to the Chief Executive.
Sorry, Chair, thank you. Both are time-bound matters. So for tomorrow's Regeneration and Community Committee, you'll have seen there is a draft response, and this is the wastewater treatment works, the consultation process at Hamlet. So just a proposer and seconder, please. Because of the deadline, we would need to get the submission in before the next council meeting at the end of July.
Proposed by Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Looking for a seconder. Councillor John Feely.
Chair. And similarly then, Policy and Resources tomorrow evening. Again, the documentation has been attached to the committee. reports, but the Equality and Good Relations Duties Annual Progress Report return to the Equality Commission.
Okay. Councillor Stephen Donnelly and Councillor Bonnie McAdoo.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I was just,
Sorry, Chair, go on ahead, Barry.
I was going to ask if the Department for Economy consultation, I think that might have been just launched either today or yesterday. I think it's in and around the theme of good jobs. It might talk about zero-hour contracts and other matters. Just wondering, we probably have enough time, maybe not to put that onto the agenda for tomorrow night, but when would we be expected to respond to that consultation might be my question.
Chair, if councillors are content, we will check, as I think it does give us sufficient time into September. I'm working a little from memory, but we'll have the confirmed information for tomorrow evening. And if I imagine it's something that the council would wish to respond to, Chair, so we'll be able to provide that in the detail. And if we need to expedite the response, we can look at that as well.
Okay. And we're all in agreement. Thank you. Next, we're on to correspondence, which item 16.1.
Chair, thank you. Chair, the first item, while it's under the heading of Mid-Ulster Drama Festival, that was the item at which it was discussed at the relevant meeting. This actually related to the road service removal of various signs that have been put up by the local community in relation to a local drama festival in Lisnaskea. So this is the response from the Divisional Roads Manager, which refers to the sweep that was undertaken by DFI officials and identifying that there were some safety considerations regarding the positioning of the posters, hence their removal, and then just sets out the wider resource constraints, and should there be any similar scenarios in the future, such signs will really only be removed in the event of there being a definite health and safety risk.
Okay. Somebody to propose nothing. Councillor John Feely and Councillor Stephen Donnelly. See my hand moving there. We'll take that as a second. Sorry, Councillor O'Reilly.
Just a thought struck me there in the sort of correspondence that we heard. While we mightn't always agree at the timing of when things are taken down by road service and so forth, how does that correspondence say from here on in that anything that's put up is left up unless it's health and safety aspect? And does that eventually fall onto the council as a cost if we want to keep our area looking middling? Thank you, John.
Yes, I suppose, Chair, maybe just taking it in a slightly different way. So we have, as members will know through our Clean Neighbourhoods policy, have had ongoing engagement with DFI Roads, and they generally don't intervene. So I don't think that particular aspect will change matters, but certainly my reading of it would be that this will be now strictly down to health and safety matters, together with those other items that there may be agreement around the contentious flags, emblems or posters, that there may be community agreement. But I think that will be their only level of intervention.
We've had a proposal. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to propose noting this. I suppose just touching on that particular issue in terms of this being restricted solely to areas where there's a kind of physical health risk in terms of these items being up on lampposts and all the rest of it. The problem is a number of the kind of flags or emblems or banners that would be erected and where residents would want to see speedy action to seeing them being removed. It might not pose an immediate physical health risk, but there are real issues in terms of intimidation and people's sense of comfort within their own community. So the seriousness of this being essentially an abdication of responsibility is extraordinarily serious, and people will be feeling despairing at this kind of rhetoric. So I suppose just in terms of the interactions that we have had previously with the Executive Office, particularly around the FIC report, around recommendations to try and make further progress around sort of clarifying responsibilities, enforcement around sort of the removal of items of this nature. Where do we actually stand in terms of the last, I guess, kind of correspondence and engagement that we've had on this issue, just so that we kind of know where we might go from here?
Okay, Chair, certainly in terms of the FICT report, which is the Flags, Images, Cultural Traditions, or Flags, Identity, Cultural Traditions report, we did, I think maybe within the last 2 months, but very recently, we had a response from the Executive Office. The Council had written on precisely this issue and asked essentially how the FICT recommendations will now be implemented, that the Assembly and Executive is back up and running. And the response from the Executive Office was that no decision on the FICT report or its recommendations has yet been taken.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McElduff.
Chair, can I just ask if we can establish what the precise legislation is around the possible removal of items from DFI-controlled telegraph poles? I remember we did good relations training, and Peter Osborne was one of the facilitators, and he did point out in the course of that training that there is a specific, much underused piece of legislation where we can put pressure on DFI roads.
Yes, Chair, and we have done so. So we have, again, roughly the same time, we did actually bring a report to Environmental Services setting out the specific legislative arrangements under which we and others operate. And I suppose from a council perspective, it is under Clean Neighbourhoods. The issue in relation to flags and emblems and some posters and other matter is that DFI risk assess the potential for community dispute or disturbance, and they prioritise the safety, for example, of their own staff or contractors. And that's why the letter references a community consensus. So generally, if there's a community agreement to the removal of such flags, they will intervene, or other emblems. If there is not, they will not. We have used the legislative provision in our correspondence with them, and typically the response is that they do not have the suitable resources at this time to intervene. And should the council wish to do so, we would do so entirely at our own risk and without their approval generally.
In there briefly, Bart.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Chair. I think as councillors, we need to be able to speak to each other as well about communities within our council area if we have possible influence. And I'm thinking specifically of, I won't name it, but a new housing development where people have told me they feel very uncomfortable with flags put up on the entrance to the new housing development. You know, it's maybe characterised as mixed, but they don't want to get into the business of making a public and song and dance about it. They just would like their housing development to be symbols and emblems free. You know, so I'm thinking in an ideal world, I should be able to approach a councillor or someone from another tradition if that is the issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Gallup.
Chair, just kind of a question around what the Chief Executive was saying there in terms of community. How do they, maybe they don't, or maybe you don't have the answer. How do they define community in this context? I think it's very important, because I think that example that Barry just gave there, to me, that would be the community is an agreement that they should be gone. But how do they assess it? Do they consider the estate across the road in that assessment? You know, I think that's very important that we have an answer to that, and the clarity is provided that, because as far as I'm aware, they don't define what community is, and you need to have a definition for it to have any teeth legally.
Chair, I think if, as Councillor Gannon has indicated, I wouldn't actually hazard a guess, because I'm not sure, nor am I sure, for example, if there is even a process of engagement with members around it, because you two would have obviously community links and a representative role, but we could certainly write back and just seek the examples of what is their engagement process and how do they define community in such circumstances if members were in agreement.
Yeah. Briefly, Adam.
I'll just propose that as the Chief Executive lined out there. Thank you.
So, seconder for that? All right, Councillor McElduff. Thank you. Okay, so we'll finish that item off there. Sorry, we're in agreement with the proposal that we write back to seek clarification. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, item 16.2 is a response from the Permanent Secretary in the Department for Communities, and this is in relation to the Council's previous representations really regarding the Local Government Staff Commission, the deadline or how that has been missed in terms of its operations in the past and the rationale for it being extended. Chair, members may recall that when this matter was first considered at the Council, it was at Policy and Resources in April of this year, and it was agreed that we would hold our subscription to the Local Government Staff Commission pending a response from the department. So it's just really to clarify if members are content that now that response has been received, that we can proceed to issue our subscription.
Okay. So I'm looking at proposer and seconder. Councillor Irvine and Councillor McGrath. So next we go to 16.3.
Yes, Chair, this is just from Ards and North Down Borough Council, and this is asking us to support that council's call to the DAERA Minister in relation for additional enforcement powers to councils with instances of bins being left on the streets for prolonged periods. I'm not sure, Chair, if this, perhaps in the first instance, you'd be content that officers can maybe just engage with colleagues just to clarify what some of those powers might look like, and then we'd report back to the relevant committee, which would be Environmental Services, just in case there are any unintended consequences of this that we might not be fully aware of.
Councillor McCann.
No, that's okay. I'm happy to note the letter and maybe go with the Chief Executive's comments there. I was minded just if we didn't further action this just until we get on top of our own issues with bin collections. The last thing that we want to be doing is to issue out fixed penalties, if a bin hasn't been collected. So I'd be happy to obviously take the direction of the Chief Executive.
Thank you. Councillor Alan McGann.
Thank you, Chair. A bit of this kind of links back to our discussion on unadopted streets from earlier. Just if that could be worked into the report, how, because that is, from my experience, when this is occurring, when a street is unadopted and our staff can't go down it and owners leave their bins at the top of a road that is adopted.
Okay, thank you, Adam. So, yeah, and everybody in agreement? Okay. Next we go, item 16.4, Sutherland Bypass Renniskillen Bridge at the A4 Dublin Road. Again, bringing the Chief Executive.
Yes, Chair, well, members will have seen the letter, and really this is just from some residents and I suppose community representatives who have asked that the council really makes representations to the Minister to review the design of the proposed bridge to reflect the importance and sensitivity of the location. So I would suggest, Chair, if members wish, the correspondence could be noted and we can just forward this then on to the department for their consideration.
Okay, Councillor Maguire.
Gordon Margaret, Carly, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief Executive, for that. I've obviously been spoken to on this issue, and I think there are some valid points within it, but I was mindful in the conversation of saying that I'm aware that the bridge was initially supposed to be completed in 2018. That hasn't happened. So just a question of, has the architectural design, etc., already been determined? Or are we aware of that? Or is what levers would be available to anybody from the local area to have an input to the design and the final conclusions of the bridge?
So, well, Chair, my understanding, I would imagine it is substantially complete, but now that would be an estimation on my part. We would need to clarify. The reason I'm saying that is that the scheme is out, as I understand it, for tender, and part of the tender is a fully spec'd scheme. So I think it has been designed to the DFI, I suppose, their old standards. It's certainly something we can clarify in the correspondence, but I would imagine that it has already been fully designed from a DFI perspective, and that's the basis for the tender process.
Okay, next we'll go Councillor Alan McGann.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to Councillor Maguire there, I felt it was maybe a bit late in the day for this coming in, whilst it is very valid and good points raised. suppose if you don't ask, you don't get, which is part of the reason for this letter. And I would be happy to, if Tommy didn't propose it there, to propose that we do forward this on to the Minister and ask for it to be included in any response, so we can see what the response is, i.e. where is it? Is it already planned? Or is there even scope for it? If you don't ask, you don't get. It could be too late, but we might as well ask the question on behalf of the residents.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Elliott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And like the other two councillors, I'd like to support them in what they've been saying. Obviously, I think this isn't a case of trying to delay anything. You know, it's just trying to maybe enhance what's already there. But it's worth asking the question anyway. So I'd just like to support what has been said previous. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And next we'll go to Councillor Robert Irwin.
Yeah, I think we've got to be aware of the semantics of what we're saying. If we note the letter and pass it on, it doesn't necessarily say that the council itself supports the opinion purported in the letter. I would at least like, if we're noting, that we support fully the opinions offered by the residents, because I think what they've said is very valid. It is a main entry point into the island town of Enniskillen, and it's just going to be a flat plank across, you know, with supports either side. It's going to look fairly utilitarian, and I agree. If the design is advanced at such a stage that is part of the tender package, it may be too late. But again, I think as some of the councillors said, if we don't ask, so I would like that we not only support and note the letter, but we support the opinions expressed in it, and we would pass that on as a council. So I would like that really to be put as a matter of record. Thank you.
Yeah, is that consistent with the other members? Yeah, Councillor Maguire is agreeing. Yeah, and who do we go to next?
Are you Councillor Reif online?
Oh, Councillor Gann. Councillor Reif online.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to echo Councillor Irvine, I think that would be fair to support it, as well as just noting it. Obviously, the caveat being that if it is already up for tender, there may be a difficulty in the decision-making process for DFI, but I think there's no harm in us supporting it. It might be too late, but potentially, you know, we've got some wonderful artists who've done some wonderful murals across Enniskillen area, so hopefully a couple of them have some sea legs. Maybe we'll paint it if we need to down the line to spruce it up a bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. So we're all happy with that, that the council's supporting the residents, and that if it's not too late, we would like bridge a little bit beautified. Okay, thank you.
And Chair, thank you. If I may just refer members then to your other correspondence folder, there were 6 items. All have been dealt with in the course of the meeting, with the exception of the letter dated the 26th of June from Cavan County Council. And this is in relation to the timeline. It's really the review of the traveller accommodation programme for 2025 to 2029. And you'll have seen, Chair, that Cavan is undertaking a review given their role as the relevant housing authority. But the deadline for submissions is the 26th of July. So if members were content, Chair, I know we have a couple of our own councillors on various traveller support groups, as well as our own engagement through officers. So we would maybe canvass if there are any particular views, and we would be able to respond in advance of the deadline to Cavan.
Okay. Looking at proposal and seconder. Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we do respond and we get back.
Okay, thank you.
In a week, maybe? Or is there, no?
Chair, what I was going to propose, that we would engage with our own officers, with our own councillors who are on the networks, and then that we could bring you an update at the council meeting before the end of July, which is the 25th, I think, so we can advise accordingly. It may be that there's no particular issues, but that we would be able to note that in correspondence.
Okay, thank you. And that's seconded by Councillor Robert Irvine. Okay, So that's all the correspondence. So we're on to item 17, any urgent and relevant business. I got some of them away, but I have 3 here still in front of me. So first of all, I'll go to Councillor Patrick Withers. Sorry.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Karen Margaret Carley. I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Air Under 15 Camogie team and the Ariel Kieran Under 15 girls team on winning All Ireland titles, respectively in field competitions in County Wexford and County Louth recently. As we all know, these achievements require lots of dedication and training in rain, hail, sun or shine. So well done to the players, the coaches and the parents on their successes. I know that memories will be made for a lifetime, and while these events are strongly competitive, I'm also aware that new friendships will be built up on players from opposition teams from around the country. I'd just like to request that the Chair would acknowledge these achievements and correspondence to the clubs, and also hold a Chair's reception at some stage later in the year. And I'll obviously follow that up with the necessary paperwork. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And Podrigan, you're coming in to second it?
Yes, more than delighted to second that proposal.
Okay, thank you. So that's that item. Next we have Councillor Barry McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. I want the council to engage with the housing executive in the matter of kind of a saturated area of land, permanently saturated, covered in water, at a green space at Kevlin Gardens in Omagh. And it definitely poses a serious risk to people, including residents and especially children and young people. And I did write to the housing executive because it's my understanding that it's under their control, maybe 5 weeks ago. And I needed to send a reminder today, basically saying when. Now, I understand that the housing executive then contacted the council as well today, and that if there's any council remit in the matter, pleased to note that the council has responded promptly and is sending people out tomorrow, as I understand it. But if it turns out to be a housing executive, again, it's this whole area of, is it housing executive? Is it DFI roads? Is it council? You know, people very often ask those questions, and that search is underway right now to remediate a problem at Kevlin Gardens, like where children and young people play. For example, you might have children's toys. You'll see the top of them just in the submerged water area. And I do think it constitutes a real health and safety danger. My notion at this point is that it's housing executive, but I could be wrong. And I would just like council support for prompt and proper investigation of the matter and remediation. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Looking somebody to second that. Councillor Marty McColgan, and everybody in agreement? Thank you. And then last we have Councillor Paul Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. It's brought to my attention about the new D-rails going up along the road, fencing, and they're putting the D-rails out towards the road. And there's been actions for health and safety. D-rail would need to be on the inside, so if the fence is hit by a car or anything, that the D-rail will go away from the vehicle, not come through the windscreen, where there has been several people that's been killed by this. So I want to write to the Minister to see what the view is with road service on this. And also barbed wire along the road put on the outside of the posts with people walking the road. There's no bull wire along the lane wire along the front of it to keep anybody from touching it or getting their hands cut. I want that put in the letter as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm bringing in Councillor David Mann.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second that proposal there for the letter to the Minister. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And as a police officer, I've had experience of with the damage that derails can do. So are we all happy to send this letter forward to DFI roads? Okay, thank you. So now I'm looking somebody to into committee, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Robinson. So we're just going to pause. David, if David says we're ready to go, the Chief Executive is going to sum up. Yeah, he has, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 4th of June. There were no matters arising. The minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 22nd of May, and there were no matters arising. It considered the confidential report of the Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 5th of June, and there was an update on a matter arising, and on the confidential, also considered and adopted the confidential report of the Regeneration and Community Committee meeting held on the 11th of June and adopted the minutes. There were no matters arising. Also, the confidential report of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting and adopted the minutes. There were no matters arising. And lastly, considered confidential correspondence from the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs and agreed a course of action in relation to the letter.
Okay, thank you. So proposal to adopt. Victor? Paul again, Councillor Robinson. Okay, so everybody, it's 6 minutes past 9, and apart from a computer glitch, we might have made it before 9 o'clock. So thank you very much for your cooperation and safe home.